Welcome to Come Knit with me, and we are doing a modified, all together sock by Heidi, except I've modified it for me. I have fairly wide feet, and the original pattern calls for 15 cast on stitches. I'm doing 20. My foot's about a wide 9. So what I'm doing, I am going to do an E-wrap, which personally I do not like E-wrap, but I do like the result it gives. Mainly because I usually get about here and I forget to hold the stitch down and I drop it. Now what I'm doing is I'm coming up between the stitch, laying it over and going down backwards. So it makes the shape of an E if you're looking at the yarn. See, that's one of the reasons I don't like the E-wrap, because I'm not a real coordinated person. Now, for me to get my, cast on comb, and I do prefer the cast on combs, mainly because I can move it up as I go. Now, if you're using the black hand still, just go, use it per your directions. Now, I carefully bring it up and carefully hang it. Now this is an every stitch cast on comb. Some of my others are every other. Now I like, I like that one being caught on that peg right next to it, and it wasn't. So I am just going to catch it on that one, and then I can continue on my way and do some happy knitting. Okay, my row counter is set on 0, and what I'm going to be doing, I am going to be knitting 14 rows and then converting that to rib. So get my needles into work position. I do not use the yellow card anymore, because the forward working position is basically one thumb's difference, and I kept losing, honestly, I kept losing the yellow card, and I figured I can't lose my thumbs, so I'll always know how thick to make it. Okay, so I'm going to knit my first row, and what I want to do, mainly because when I come back to do the other half of it, the first time I did it, I ended up with 14 on one side and like 4 rows on the other. So I kind of color coordinate it. I use 14 and I use paper clips because I find it's easier for me. They're easier for me to load up. You can use hairpins, bobby pins, and I just do the first row real slow, because if you've ever had to rehang an E-wrap stitch, it's not fun. Okay, and I just give the work a little tug, and I get another one, and I use white, mainly because it's the one I have the most of. Okay, and now before I knit the row, I put the pin on, and I knit the row again. Now this is a little bit thicker yarn than I've been using, so it's a little bit stiffer. And I'm using key plate 3, so I get another pin out and hang it and knit a row, get another pin, hang it and knit a row. And I'm just taking my time, I'm not hurrying. And knit a row. Excuse my arm. Another pin. Knit a row. I have 7. What I do a lot of times is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, bunch up here, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay, and I just space them out a little bit here. And as long as they lay flat, they stay out of my way when I'm knitting. And they're right there when I need them. Okay, so knit the row. Hang a pin. Knit a row. Hang a pin. Knit a row. Hang a pin. Knit a row. Now only hold the yarn once the first couple of stitches are knitted. Okay? Hang a pin. And you will be knitting a row, hanging a pin, knitting a row for about 70 rows. Don't do what I just did. Okay, and since I did it before the row counter got counted, I'm going to remove it. What I did is I lifted it up for some unknown reason before I knitted the row. Okay, that one is knitted, so I'll put that back into work position afterwards. Okay, so knit my row again. I didn't unknit the first stitch. I'll just put that into work position. Alright, I must not have set one count knit row, because that should be, let me count my rows here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, I got 2 more rows to do. I didn't think I was quite ready yet. Okay, so put that back into work position and knit the row, and I'm going to make this a 3 because for some reason I didn't clear the counter when I was working with it earlier. Okay, and here's 14. Okay. Alright, my yarn kind of went weird on me. Hang on. I have it set up on a spindle. And I know you're saying spindle. Okay. I'll show you that in just a moment. Now, what I'm going to do, the way I do my ribbing, I pull every other one forward. I do not mess with the first one. I pull out my 1-inch board and I set it between the nubs and the needles. I do that because now I don't have to release the stitch. I just pull it forward and ladder it down. Now this is a, I think this is a mill end, so it's stiffer than the regular. It's even a little bit stiffer than Red Heart and some of the other ones. I'm not even quite sure where I got it, but it's a great stash buster. You need approximately just under 3 ounces for a pair of mittens. I got mittens on the brain, sorry. For a pair of slippers. Socks. If you want them as socks, like it throw cold, you'd probably want at least 2 skeins. 1 skein for each sock. Okay, now I'm going in the stitch right above the E-wrap. I do not mess with the E-wrap, because if I ever drop that stitch, it is not a fun stitch to recreate. So I do my best to stay away from it. Now you can do whatever rib you want, and if you want to do a pattern, you have to remember that you're working, one part of the sock will end up being like upside down, so you have to plan which side you want the pattern on. because this is seamed on the side, so you really can't put a pattern on the side unless you incorporate that seam into the pattern. Okay, and just continue on down. This takes me, I think I had a pair done in just under 3 hours. Try to ignore the pins going up. If they get too annoying, you just go down the stitch below and continue on. As I was saying, if the pins get too annoying and they jab in your hand like mine's doing right now and you're not real crazy about it, you can take your clips and just clip the work. That way they're out of the way. And you want your weights kind of centered, which I didn't hang it exactly centered, so it's not going to be centered. And just don't pull it too far forward because you don't want to take off the other stitches. You can unladder them individually like this. Just go into that top first row, not the E row, but the one that you actually knitted. I mean, if you want to go into the E-wrap stitch, go right ahead, more power to you. I'm not that coordinated, so I don't do it. And just knit these up. Now, what we did to get to this point, which was hang a pin, knit a row, hang a pin. You're going to do that until we get to the heel, which I will do that off camera because that is kind of boring to watch. It's kind of fun to watch it grow, but it's boring to watch. But I am just going to be knitting up until row 44. So that's row 15 to 44 is going to be straight knit. I'm not doing any patterns at this point. This is just straight stockinette stitching. If you wanted to do a pattern, that's the row 15 to 44 is the row that you'll be doing it. And now keep in mind that is the back of the heel. I did just what I didn't want to do. The part we're doing right now is the back of the foot, the back ankle. So keep in mind if you're doing a pattern what you're putting it in. And then from row at row 44 we'll do the heel, which I do the heel by hand. Well, not really by hand, that's kind of a misnomer. I manually knit the stitches using the machine. I don't take them off, I just do it right there. And I'll show you how I do that. And I do not change the row counter. So when I start knitting again, I start knitting row 45, and then I'll knit from 45 to 70. And then what we did on the heel, we'll do again at the toe. And I know when I first started this, I goes, the heel is not the toe. How can they be done the same way? The reason they can be done the same way is as soon as we finish the heel, we knit the bottom of the foot. But when we knit the toe, we're going to knit the top of the foot and start attaching the bottom of the foot, so it makes more like a tube than a little half pocket. Okay, oops. Now this yarn is a little bit, probably would have been better at key plate 4, but I wanted to see how this would work with this thicker yarn. See what size I'd end up with. Okay. Alright, now I'm starting on the ankle. So I push them back into work position. I've got my clip hung, and I just knit the row. Hang a clip and knit the row. Sound familiar? And do the same until, and I'm going to do the same until I reach row 44, and I will be back at that point.